So, hello everybody. I'm so happy to be here in front of you again at DevOps, and I hope you're happy that this conference is going on again. I'm really excited about what's going to happen in the following days, and hope you'll enjoy my presentation as well. Welcome to Helm versus Kustomize, the frenemies that soothe Kubernetes. A little bit about myself. I'm Ana, and I'm passionate about solving scenarios that involve Java and Kubernetes, and hence the deployments today, of course, they will combine both and some tools in action. But moreover, I want to ask you something. Please raise your hand if, at least once in this lifetime, you thought that working with Kubernetes resources is easy. Okay, I just have only 5 people. The other ones were pretty much aware of what they're getting into. That's great, actually. But I thought so too. I think at the end of 2017, I still thought that. But then there are a lot of testimonials where you get to see this reaction after some time of working with Kubernetes. And pretty much that comes with the complexity of your applications going in time, configurations, and many more other stuff. However, this kind of a situation is not lasting for a long time, hopefully. And it can be improved if you are using the right tools and practices, hence the session of today. So there's some tools overview here. Most of the time we work with code repositories, and when we want to deploy to Kubernetes, we use YAML. But in order to help our journey with Kubernetes, we have 2 options in terms of like making things easier, in terms of deploying across multiple environments and so on. So we have option 1, according to the slides, like Helm, the package manager of Kubernetes, and then we have also Kustomize, which is a configuration tool. Both of them work great in order to help you to deploy to Kubernetes. However, there are some differences between them, and we will see how they can also work together. Also, another question for you. How many of you are Java developers? If you can please raise your hand. That's great. So here's it is, because I don't want for you to work necessarily with YAML directly after my session and go into my repo and look at it and just see a lot of YAML again. I have some tips for you. So you can use decorate and jcube to generate that YAML, and then use Helm, generate Helm charts and then enhance them, or generate YAML and use Kustomize to enhance them too. So it's much easier nowadays to work as a Java developer with these tools, and we have starters and tools that are more friendly to us than back nowadays when back in the day when I started with Kubernetes and I had to deal with a YAML myself, raw YAML. But those being said, let's talk about Kustomize first. So Kustomize is an overlay engine, and its approach is pretty much around using the KISS principle, which I hope you all know what it means, and is supporting an inherited base model. And the nice thing about Kustomize is the fact that it uses plain YAML files, so you don't have to go again in those YAMLs and do some configurations, some functions that are more difficult to do, and all this. Another great thing about it is that it's following the Kubernetes paradigm. It's declarative, and it's native to Kubernetes. And if you're thinking about, when it's great to use it and how it boosts your productivity, if you already tried it, you pretty much know that it's great to use for the off-shelf application. So it's great when in those cases. This is the great part. And after each great part, there's going to be a demo. So let's go to the IDE. So I have an application comprised of multiple parts. It's a to-do app. And for the customized part, I need to deploy some infrastructure. It's a Cassandra with a Zipkin. And I can use, Kustomize for that. So first of all, let me use the Cassandra. So every time when you start with Kubernetes, probably you have these kind of things. Let me make this bigger. You have a deployment, and then you have a service, right? That's great. You can use these with Kustomize just pretty simple. So just go here, make a directory called base. You move these 2, which are very nice, in here in the base, and then you make a small file called customization.yaml. Yet another YAML, but with shortened content. And in this one, we can say like common labels. In this one, you can put some common labels for your resources. And of course, you have some resources in it, of course. And we have of course, deployment. Hey, resources. Hey, I don't like you. Okay, that's better. Service.yaml, that's great. Do I need anything else? No, it's fine. So let's deploy this and say customize build. I'm in the Cassandra, but let me check in which directory. Okay, so I'm in cube files. I can see cube files. Okay, so customize build cube files, Cassandra again, very thoughtful from my side to do this. And I just also want to apply this to Kubernetes. So I'm going to say kubectl apply the result to my cluster. So this is going to like make the output of the entire configuration all together. So now these two are being created, which is great. But if I want to like deploy this to another namespace, for example, not the current one, which I think it's called Tia, I can do overlays. So I can, enhance this. Make another directory, call it overlays. Okay, I'm just going to be a little lazy and copy paste stuff. Oh no, don't need to copy paste yet. Another one. I'm going to deploy to dev. And here I go to copy paste things. And in this one, I can add stuff like, well, let me add another customization. File, customization.yaml. And add my customization to it. So for this one, I want to say, hey, I want you to target the namespace dev. So it's not like the other one which didn't care. The common labels, well, again, is the same, app Cassandra. What else? Okay, yes, this one needs some resources and it's going to reuse some stuff from my base. So please reuse some things from the base. But if I want to modify the deployment with some more some more updates, I can use patches strategic merge and overwrite this, for example, with the my deployment.yaml in this one. And moreover, prefix this installation with dev. Those being said, let's use again the command, but instead of base, let's go with overlays, dev, and apply to it. So let's go. Okay, kubectl get deploy -n dev. Let's see what happened. Okay, so I have my dev to do Helidon examples Cassandra deployed 7 seconds ago, which shows that it was pretty recent. Moreover, let's also install my zipkin for the further application deployment and go with customize build zipkin, no, cube files, zipkin, base in this one, and again, kubectl apply -f and all this. So if you're wondering how you can get your deployment and your service, you can use those tools that I mentioned earlier as a Java developer, Decorate or JCube, and you generate those, and voila, you can have your own base generated by other means, much more friendlier to Java developers. So that was the first part of the demo, but there are some things that are not so great about Kustomize. It doesn't follow the principle of do not repeat yourself. As you can see, if I want to multiply this for more namespaces, well, in that case, I just need to copy paste most of the time. I have to make another customization. So it's not exactly do not repeat yourself. Then users have to manually maintain the customization.yaml and do the patches and all the other stuff. And another thing that is a little bit interesting is the fact that the native version that's embedded in kubectl, the CLI of Kubernetes, is not as new as the standalone version. So the customize that I used is not as new as the one that is embedded in the kubectl. And sometimes that can be a little annoying. That was the part with Kustomize, but there are some best practices that I would like to share with you. Probably there are many more, but I just want to summarize a few. So always separate your custom resources and instances in separate packages, especially when you're using custom resource definitions. That would be very important to be separated. Then try to keep the common values like metadata and so on in the base file, because what's common is likely to be used across your deployments, across environments. Then organize your resources by kind and following the convention that I showed you in the slides. Then standardize over base, patches, and overlays for environment-specific files. And of course, if you just want to get rid of the indentation problem, use this lovely command kubectl kustomize cfg fmt, which comes from format, file name, before pushing anything to Git. So you don't end up with issues of indentation after you have used this file. These are the bit of the practices that I want to share about Kustomize. Now let's go a little bit to Helm. Now Helm is the package manager of Kubernetes and a templating engine. It can give you a prototype following the dry principle, unlike the other one. It simplifies the application installation, includes a lot of features like rollbacks, hooks, and packaging. And it can also give you functions that you can use in the template level and check what's going on over there before, actually assuming that you have some variables assigned in the values.yaml. And of course, it can boost your productivity because many of the products that exist in the market are being shared with the wider community via Helm charts. So you can get those off the shelf and then just simply install them. Pretty much whenever I need a database, nowadays I'm just, using Helm to install everything that I need. Let's go a little bit to the demo part. So let's deploy our applications, the meaty ones. First of all, let's go to the backend and go to the chart, which is a Java application. So here, hope is backend. Yes. So Helm, easily Helm create. I'm going to say to do app backend. And I'm going to use a starter to make this easier and save some time because Helm can use starters. So tree to do app backend. And you can see what is generated. So I have the chart.yaml describing my charts, the templates, which is pretty much the standard ones nowadays with the latest version of Helm, gives you deployment, horizontal plot autoscalers if you want to enable that, ingress, services, service account if you want to deploy securely, and of course, what I defined as an extra is my config map because my service needs some configuration from the environment and it needs that to be available there. And then I just can go here and say Helm install support and say to do app backend. So that one is gonna go pretty much like this. Come on, please internet, do not go away. Good. So now that I've done this, let's see kubectl get pods and see how things are existing. So it's up and running already, but it takes a little while for my service to have an endpoint for its table. But anyway, this is the backend. It's not interesting as front end. Now let's go to the front end and let me see. Yes, see. Let's go here. kubectl apply kubectl apply. Sorry, again. Helm create to do app front end -- starter to do app front end create. Okay, so we have this, and here Helm install. I'm just going to be a little, say, simple to do app front end, and is going to be installed in hopefully a nutshell. Takes a while to put everything together because it's having a lot of resources. Now I can go a little upper and say, hey, you know what? I want to deploy them all together. So I'm going to say Helm create leader. And let me check, where is it? Yes, this is my leader. I don't need templates anymore if I want to put them all together. So I'm going to do this, delete. But I need charts. So go here. Hopefully I was in, I did. I made them both in the same place. Well, in the repo they're in separate places, but yes. So I just put them in the charts and I can deploy them all together. But with Helm, I can extract some stuff at the level of values.yaml as global. So delete the contents of here because I don't need them. And I can add some global information. So first of all, in values.yaml, I have this information about the config map about the backend. So I can put it here and you just remove this. But I need to specify this as a global. And I'm doing this global here and this part. Now I need also a name for my service in the backend that I would like to be taken into account. So first of all, I'm going to say service, because I always want for my backend service to be at a specific location. So I'm just going to hard code the name like this. Just give it a different name so that it doesn't be confusing with the other one. So now that I've done this, and I moved my values from here, let me delete this one as I don't need it, and go and modify things. So backend, okay. First of all, the config map from front end doesn't have this part here. It needs to use the global information. So I'm going to just get global to my backend endpoint. And going to my to do backend, I need to go to my service.yaml and change its name to, oh, too many. Okay. values.global.service.name. So getting it from the global part. And now that we're done with this, we can make the installation. Helm install leader from leader. And let's see what's going to happen. Hopefully everything was declared pretty much swiftly. So it should install both of them all together, having no issue in being seen. So get kubectl, get svc, and then get the services. Okay, so my previous simple front end is available. Let's try it. Okay, so my to-do app is up and running and available. Good. Let me clear this. kubectl get svc. Let's see if the Helm declaration, the second one, the leader, he's not ready yet. It takes a little while to be ready. But just to make sure that I have all my pods in safety mode and running, because they are up and running, including the most recent ones. Let's just go here. Oh, come on, make an IP, please. Yes. Always please works. Declarative. So again, up and running and working even in the leader chart approach. What is not so great with Helm? Well, Helm is imperative mostly. It's not declarative like Kubernetes and requires installation of a CLI in order to manage the charts. So you always depend on that CLI. In time, it will be very difficult to manage all the templates, follow all the customization, and add all the functions within your charts. And of course, there is some difficulty when there are runtime customizations, and when that's an overhead for the CI/CD pipelines most of the time. So that's something that people, including myself, have seen over time when you are using intensively Helm. However, there's still some best practices to live a great life with Helm. So always separate the non-final values from the actual objects. Try to avoid as much as possible hard coding stuff. Manage environments via multiple values.yaml, usually values.environmentname.yaml. And in a template, always check for your nested values at every level, because if you have nested values, you might maybe forget something to be declared in your values.yaml, and you're just avoiding a pain in case you're not checking the correctness of your charts. How do you check if your chart was correctly defined? Use Helm lint, which can inspect your chart for potential issues. And of course, always attempt a dry run of the installation that you're planning to do with Helm. So dry runs can save a lot in terms of working with Helm. How about Helm with Kustomize? Do they work together? They do. So there are some ways to work with Helm and Kustomize. And the first one is by using this kind of approach, clear. So you can firstly create a template from a specific chart by using your own values. So I have my values file called values.oci.yaml here. Yeah, so I have the role-based access control, what type of load balancer I want to use, what's the shape, FlexMin, and all these things, which are specific to my cloud and my Kubernetes engine, which is an Oracle Kubernetes engine. And of course, I can use Helm template to create my own file that will be further used by Kustomize. So I'm going to use these values, but for the charts, from Ingress Nginx, the charts of Ingress Nginx, which I'm finding very useful sometimes. And of course, do this in nginx.yaml. So everything should be available. Come on. Yeah. In this nginx.yaml here, a lot of information, scrollable, great. That's what we wanted to see. And after we're doing this, how do we use them? So it's pretty much easy. In the, sorry, not this one. You just create, let me just go in here and use the customization again, like say some common labels, app, infra, and then you can put a namespace. In my case is nginx, ingress nginx. And of course, resources, which are going to be nginx.yaml. And again, customize, build, minus D, oh no, customize build, I think it's enough. Enable Helm, like specify that you should enable Helm. And again, kubectl, apply minus F minus. So that should be enough. If you're specifying the enable Helm, that will show to them that, hey, these are some Helm charts that need to be installed, not regular YAML things. So you can see that everything is being installed in my namespace. Pretty much this from Helm to Kustomize. There's also a way to use Helm inside Kustomize and then just apply that. So pretty much you can declare in the Helm chart inflation generator a chart with the chart repo URL, the chart version, the release name, the release namespace, so pretty much the same thing that I did earlier in Ingress Nginx. And of course, the values that you want to be overridden, your own values for those charts, because those are published, but you can put your own values that are next in your repo and just have only that managed over there. This is a comparison table that might help you in deciding which one works for you. So there's something I put together so that you think about when you want to choose each of them. So first of all, from engine point of view, one is package, the other one is overlay. Now Helm is great in terms of like rollbacks and the fact that it has validation hooks, but Kustomize on the other hand is native to Kubernetes. The nature is different, one being imperative, the other one declarative. And of course, configuration, the way that configuration is being managed. Well, Helm is going with managing the configuration with one base structure, but multiple values files. The other one goes with the structure across directories and using the patches overlay approach. Those being said, thank you. Please rate my talk. And this is where you can find the code with more explanations. And also, if you want to ask me about working with Decorate or with JCube, I am here to explain you more about that. And you can find those also in the code from the repo and how do they work together. So again, thank you. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Yes, there is a quote, general behind. Personal opinion. So I was asked if I have a personal opinion about the topic. The personal opinion, I like Helm more because I worked with it more. That's the personal one. Now, Kustomize is great from my point of view. Also, in terms of working with custom resource definition, which with Helm is a little bit it's more challenging from my point of view. But I also admit that with Helm over time, it can be a burden to maintain the charts. When you're having multiple microservices, including done by yourself, you can still get lost, especially with the functions in, checking every value at every nested level. But great question, thanks. Any other one? Oh, the gentleman in the back, you have to yell a bit, sorry. Yeah, sorry. It's okay. So the question is, if when I'm using the Kustomize enable Helm, is that generating release in my namespace? Not to my knowledge, because when I do Helm list, I don't see it. So I pretty much am using that, but as a base, and I'm overriding with my values, but it's not because I'm pretty much taking some stuff from Helm, just packaging and the templating and just leave the rest to customize and give the power to customize. So don't. No. Welcome. Any other question? We still have 5 more minutes. If not, again, this is where you find the code. Hope you like it. And enjoy deploying with it, and try also the Java version of like creating Kubernetes resources and Helm files. Personally, I find it's a nice practice nowadays to generate your files and then just refine them on the way with tools. It's much easier and swifter than back in the day when you were just using YAML all the way. So yeah, in this case, thank you again. And enjoy the rest of the DevOps. There are more awesome sessions coming about. Thanks.